It takes a person of high integrity to ensure that this things work like that. And of course, Nigerians have to pay a price for insincerity.
From the resumption of democracy in 1999, we have had series and several elections, and at the end of the day, Inec is blamed for woes. And of course, most recent one is the last election, where prior to the election, Inec were able to make some review of its laws and guiding its administration of electoral process. But alas, such laws seem not to be very clear enough. They seem to be very bogus. And that have generated an outcry from various quarters where they're talking about Inec not standing in or not obeying its own rules or its own laws. And of course, that also brings us to some analysts and jurists, and of course, legal luminary who have continued to talk about how best that Inec can operate to give Nigerian maximum and optimal result. And of course, with me in the studio this afternoon to dissect Inec, which have been seen as an organ that is what Latin word called nemo, audes, casa sua, that is being a judge in their own matter. Like I said earlier, I have in the studio Austin Omilo to discuss the issue of reviewing Inec with me. Mr. Austin Omilo?
Yeah.
You are very much welcome.
Thank you for Dr. Peter.
You are welcome to Noble TV
for having me here.
Of course. Now, of course, I want to discuss something very important with you, and also that have to do with Inec. Inec from 1999 till now has been a scapegoat of electoral violence, been carried out by talks, being aided by security agencies, election rigging, also Inec being accused and aiding and abetting, and of course, recent time we have the review of the laws, and of course, an act about how to conduct election in Nigeria. But again, in this matter, again, Inec have been seen or been accused of flouting its own rules. In your own opinion, do you think there's need for review of Inec as an organ and of electoral process?
As far as I'm concerned, you see, when we talk about Inec, first of all, let me, for the interest of the people who may agree with me, that Inec actually solved the problem of overvoting. What do I mean by that? Now, in the past, you had of occasions where people go to vote, and at the end of the day, you see a state like Lagos turning out maybe 4 million or 5 million votes. You saw states like Rivers maybe turning out votes of 3 million. But this year, 2023, elections were conducted by Inec, and we saw because of beavers. Take for example, in Delta State, the presidential election did not produce more than 600,000 votes. Unlike before, where we used to record like 2 million, even for one political party. Now that tells you that the beavers actually helped to curb the excesses of politicians who were given to manipulating and doing some kind of incantations to show up their winning spree. Now, but having said that, Inec, there's a problem. The lawyers will call it lacuna in the provisions of the Electoral Act. When they were doing the primaries, all of us hate the primaries because the act guiding the primaries because the politicians were taken unawares. You saw a situation where a politician could not contest for one position and later go back again to contest for another. And we saw situations where politicians could not reasonably influence the outcome of the primaries because the ad hoc participants in the voting process for the primaries were shortchanged. They were removed from the... So at the end of the day, you saw how politicians who hitherto thought that maybe you knew the ad hoc participants who were going to be settled, as it were, to now vote for particular candidates. They were ousted from the system. We saw that because of the Electoral Act. Now, but unfortunately, at the level where we expected INEC to perform, that is by transmitting elections electronically, they failed. Quite unfortunate. But in the midst of all that, it's not particularly the fault of INEC. But what I think is that there was a problem with the electoral process. Why would it be said? Because in the Act, Section 145, subsection 1 and 2, states clearly that if there were violence or if there were electoral malpractices at the voting level, INEC will prosecute those offenders at the magistrate court or any other court that is so assigned to prosecute such matters. But in the absence of INEC prosecuting those people, INEC would be the sole agent or agency that will assign it to another group of persons or individuals to actually prosecute on their behalf. But unfortunately, now we see a situation where INEC, after elections, police will arrest culprits. After investigations, police will grant bails and charge matters to court. But INEC will not appear in court either on their behalf or on behalf of the police or on behalf of anybody to actually prosecute these people. Now, and they don't appoint any other group of persons, including the police, to help them in case they don't have enough manpower, particularly lawyers, to help them to prosecute the matters. Now, the resultant effect is that those people that are arrested as a result of violence, when the cases come up at the courts, INEC will not appear, police will not appear. So after a mention for several days or months or times, and no lawyer comes up to say we are representing INEC or we are representing the police, the cases will be struck out. In that case, the people that perpetrate this evil at the local level, that is at the point of voting, are not punished. So if they are not punished, they cannot provide evidences that will help to prosecute cases at the higher level. In which case, the 3 billion naira provided by INEC to prosecute cases in court is just like being targeted at maybe hiring persons like Kanu Agabi and other persons to look at the cases between maybe Peter Obi and INEC and Tinubu, or between Tinubu and INEC. So they are not looking at the lower level where persons who perpetrate evils are punished. And if they are punished reasonably, next elections, they are not likely to be involved in such acts. But if they are not punished, next time they will not, they just understand and they say, after all, nothing happens. When it happened the other time, nothing was done to these people. So for me, there's a lacuna. If INEC on its own cannot appear in court to prosecute cases at this level of snatching ballot boxes, they should work in synergy with the Nigeria police. So the Nigeria police will now stand to defend the commissioner of police, because the cases are always between commissioner of police and those criminals. So they should allow the Nigeria police lawyers to help them to prosecute the matter. In which case, the 3 billion that have been mapped out for prosecution of cases in court should be assigned in such a manner that they will empower the police to help them to actually do these cases. That's the way I think. There is a lacuna.
Yeah, my final question, sir. You talked about INEC helping our police in terms of prosecuting those they arrested violating the electoral act, by electoral law, by way of rigging and vote buying and so on and so forth. At the same time, I have a serious concern where we're not talking about INEC is the umpire. INEC happens to, in what Latin word called nemo, audius, in casa sua, that is, they are now judge in their own matter. But they are collecting these billions of naira to prosecute the matter, and the matter is to prove that they are right. And a lot of experts are looking at, why don't INEC be just an umpire, control the election and leave the scene? And of course, the electoral body that may establish will be able to have an independent overview of the thing, so that INEC as an umpire will have independency to operate. So in this regard, don't you think it's time to revisit and review the Electoral Act?
Yes. In reviewing the Electoral Act, I would rather suggest that the position of Inec chairman should be advertised. And if it is advertised, people will apply. And if you apply, the National Assembly will appoint a committee to scrutinize those people that are applying. Then at the end of the day, they will recommend some persons, 1 or 2 or 3, to the president based on their performance at the interview level, then for them to select. In that case, the person that is going to be finally selected may not necessarily be a card-carrying member or a sympathizer to a political party. That will make Inec to be truly independent. And the outcome of the interview from the National Assembly will form the basis for appointing a particular individual to that position. Now, having said that also, now you look at the lacunas that are in Inec. For example, what does it take to rig election? If you are saying the votes will be transmitted electronically, very easy and very good also. But if party A scored 4 votes and party B scored 10 votes, it's just for people who are likely to manipulate to say, okay, instead of giving 4 votes to party A, they reverse it. They give the votes to party B and the other one, and vice versa, and they transmit it electronically. That gives the impression that party A scored 10 and party B scored 4. Because it's just a question of saying, okay, party A 4, you send it to the porter. Then party B 10, you send it to the porter, depending on how. So it's very easy to even rig the election. So it takes a person of high integrity to ensure that these things work like that. And of course, Nigerians have to pay a price for insincerity. So if people that are there have to be sincere enough to actually transmit whatever is there, then we'll be arriving at a position where we get credible results from elections. And of course, that will take a lot of trainings, letting Nigerians know that elections are not supposed to be do or die affair. You don't have to win all the time. If you don't win this time, you prepare for the next time. Because at the end of the day, we are looking at a situation where somebody will win and ensure that Nigeria works. It's not about maybe just win so that you'll be appointed SSA or SA. You have to win because you want Nigeria to work.
Thank you very much, Austin Omilo, for being with us this afternoon, because we don't have much time again. So maybe some other time we'll call upon you to expatiate on this matter. And of course, this is where we're going to do the cutting for this episode for reviewing the possibility of reviewing the guideline of establishing Inec. And of course, this is Noble TV Live. My name is Chidi Peters, and of course, just like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. Thank you for watching.